it's the key to unlocking our true sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I think a lot of us have been like sealed inside of, like a safe, a fireproof safe, that's
Mm-hmm.
like 1,000 pounds, and we're on the
Mm-hmm.
inside, and we've been sealed in there by trauma and perpetration and violence and violation and being shut down and being repressed and social, like messages and religious messages and all of our parents brainwashing and gaslighting and lying. And it's like, we are we are screwed. We are inside of like a locked safe, right? With like, layers and layers and layers and layers that we have to blow through and rage.
Hey everyone, I hope everyone is doing good and taking good care of themselves. So, today on the Consciousness Dialogues, we are deep diving into anger, rage, and revenge. The emotions which are often misunderstood, demonized, and labeled by society, family, people out there. And especially I have observed these things, with the survivors of abuse. They are not allowed to be angry, they are not allowed to express any kind of emotions that are labeled as negative. And the guest that we have today with us is none other than Melissa Sandfort, IFS certified practitioner, who with her decades of experience, her being in therapy, uh, in the IFS framework, and then recovering and helping others. So she has both the experiences, evolving by being in the IFS framework and then using IFS framework to help the others. And Melissa specializes in helping people when it comes to understanding the parts of themselves, the different parts that carry anger, fear, and you can say protective impulses, so that we can reclaim our emotional power and personal agency. So without any delay, let me welcome Melissa, thank you so much for joining in today.
Thanks, Sarah. It's always fun to be with you.
Yes, it's always interesting. We talk a lot of interesting things. Now, Melissa, what, according to you, I mean, what role does anger play in the human psyche, particularly for those recovering from trauma? And I mean, what do you think? How can we recognize it as a signal of truth rather than something which is labeled as a destructive, demonic force and energy? Melissa?
Well, I really love what you're saying about how, survivors are really left with a lot of anger and rage. We were not allowed to express any anger or rage when we were trying to survive our circumstances. And so
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like it's kind of like a mountain of stored anger and rage that we've got going on. Mhm. And so part of the work is just to literally like burn through that pile of garbage that was left in us, all this unprocessed rage and anger from all the perpetration. Yeah. And
True.
um I really feel like we live in a culture that does, like you said, it demonizes anger and rage. So we have a double whammy, right? First, obviously our perpetrators are not going to allow us to express anger or rage. Or we may have only very specific times when we're allowed to express it and not others, but often in the most abusive circumstances, we're not allowed to express it, right? But then the double whammy is that in our culture says, oh, now, like it tries to split so many things into good or bad, right? And so, like, being loving and peaceful is good, and being angry and hateful is bad. And it's like, that is so ridiculous, because we have the full spectrum of human emotions for a reason, and anger and hate are natural responses to being abused. And so when we have this culture of like toxic positivity, you know, right? Like, I mean, we're really living in a culture that doesn't want to like lift the rug up and see all the crap that's going on. And so when survivors say, listen, people, there is some crap going on in our houses, in our bedrooms, in our, childhoods, right? People, "Oh, no, just let it go. Why do you have to be so angry?" It's like, "Because I was perpetrated against." And that takes a long time to heal, and part of the healing process is anger. It's anger, rage, and hatred. And I believe the more work I do on myself, the more I really need to give myself full permission to really go there. Yeah.
So true. I mean, I have personally observed with my own experience and working with others. And of course, I mean, before I deep dive, I'm not practicing as a therapist anymore. I have retired, myself from this domain. Melissa does. So, guys,
And I'm
please
a
reach out
coach,
to her.
just to be
Yes,
clear.
Melissa.
I'm not a
Yeah.
therapist. I'm an IFS certified practitioner and coach.
Yes, so Melissa is there, I mean, on board. So you guys can reach out to her for any support, any help, any assistance if you want to navigate. Now, coming to anger, rage, hatred, I personally feel till the time I was unable to release these emotions or express them, I was really in a fucked up state. I was fucked up beyond repair. Now, it happens in a very unique way. It happens from the family. If someone is hitting you, you can't, stand up and you cannot say that don't do it because they are elders. Quote
Yeah,
unquote, elders needs to be respected. They are doing for your greater good. Okay, I get it. Now, when I come out, I mean, when I came out from my situation and family, then I started talking about it. Then they said they did the best they could, and why do you carry so much of anger and hatred for them? Every parent does mistake. It was their first time. Okay, I get it. That's a classic one. It was their first time. But I mean, I asked them this question, when they were gaslighting me. Of course, I was not familiar with these terms, but I asked them, Isn't this my first time? So why should I bear with that crap? And I mean, you're telling me to forgive them, move on, and behave as if nothing happened because it was their first time. Dude, it's my first time as well on this planet. It's not that I'm coming again and again and again. I have got, a huge, pack of memories to unpack. No, it's my first time as well. And the third thing that I observed in my healing journey was that I was forbidden from even talking about it.
mhm,
People really shame you when you talk about the things that you went through. They want you to suffer in silence so that the fucked up family system exists, the fucked up relation exists. They don't want you to open your mouth that such shit exists. I have been through crap, and this is something which I feel is not very casual and normal. It feels very engineered in every domain, whether it is religion, culture, society. You will see that they craft things in such a way that abuser gets a free pass, and you should just pray, God, please save me. God, please do justice. I mean, why can't I just get up and slap that person, that piece of shit? Why can't I just teach them a lesson? They are treating me like crap, so why can't I do that? So I mean, my personal take is society in general, the religion also. I'm not talking about spirituality or spiritual practice, and everyone is free to follow whatever they want. But society in general, religion, are I mean, hugely on the abuser side and not on our side, because if we will hit them back, they are going to say, well, you are unholy to keep that anger and rage inside of you. You are being a bitch. You are so bad. You are never going to heal. You are literally filled with contemptuousness and hatred and rage, and you're channeling everything evil, and you shouldn't embody all these things. And I think that is what forbids us from healing in the right manner. When you are suffering in silence, when you're choking on your own vomit, the way how you say, Melissa, I remember last time you were talking about this expression that you are literally in a situation where you're choking on your own vomit. And I do agree that they literally choke you. They choke you into compliance, and then they expect the best out of you. No, you're not allowing me to experience the full spectrum of emotion. You're not allowing me to exercise my autonomy to express things the way how I'm feeling. And you want to get good thing out of me. No, I'm becoming a dysfunctional individual. I'm broken, and if I stay in that state, I'm going to be scarred and broken for life. Till now, I work on my healing. I am 40. Until now, I'm working on my healing. I'm not healed, and I personally feel I can never completely heal. Every day I'm learning new ways to manage things. I'm in this process of managing things and learning new things, and that's it. But heal, I can never be a new Sarah. I mean, that's what my take is. I mean, I would want to know, Melissa, what are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, the idea that we're ever going to be that person that we somehow magically, theoretically could have been if all this garbage wasn't put in us, I don't think that's tenable, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because when you are perpetrated against and you're like your body and your soul are broken into and ransacked and you are left with like, oh hey, now you got to fix this, you got to clean this all up, bye bye, you know, like you know what I mean? Okay, like kintsugi is this idea, like this Japanese idea that if you break a cup, you glue it back together with gold and then you make it more beautiful, right?
Yep.
Okay, that's what we're aiming for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because once a plate is broken, I mean, the perpetrator can go, "Oh, whoops, I didn't mean it, and I'm so
Oh
sorry," but
God.
the plate is broken.
Mm.
Nothing will change that it is in pieces, and depending how bad the abuse is and how chronic it is, right? Like, you know, we're talking about, being perpetrated against chronically hundreds, if not thousands of times. Okay, so my kintsugi plate now, just saying, for me to put a plate that's been broken into 1,000 pieces back together, I mean, first of all, how much work does it take? Have you ever done a 1,000-piece puzzle? That's a lot of work, okay, to put a
Mm-hmm.
1,000 pieces back together. You know? So first of all, that's the work that we're left with. I have 1,000 pieces of me scattered to the winds,
Wow.
right?
True.
They're
Mm-hmm.
deep in my like this is what shamanism is about, right? It's like about broken off fragments of your soul that you
Mm-hmm.
had to hide, that you had to bury inside of yourself because your wholeness attracts more abuse, right? So the more broken you are, paradoxically, the easier it is to survive all this garbage. Yeah. So I mean, we get into adulthood and we are literally carrying ourselves around in a 1,000-piece puzzle box. And now it's like, okay, let me try to be a functional person when all my pieces are scattered everywhere, right? And then if we choose to do the healing work, we have to go on this journey, this hero's journey of going inside ourselves to gather up all our little soul fragments in this shamanic way, right? Get them back in IFS, that's called our parts, right? Getting all our parts back from where we hid them here and there and everywhere in caves and in cocoons and I don't know, where they've just been kind of frozen in time. They're stuck in the past where the trauma happened, right? So it's not a joyful reunion like, oh, hi, my beautiful little 6-year old. No, it's like some 6-year old somebody poured gasoline on, burned them to nothing. And then my consciousness, in order to make sure that I somehow limp along, wrapped it up in a cocoon, stuffed it somewhere in my consciousness, and left it there. So, I mean, when we sometimes do this IFS work and we really go down in there, okay, for really trauma survivors, you find parts that are burned, that are disfigured, that are, bleeding, that are scary, that are missing pieces. They're screwed up, right? And I mean, it takes a certain amount of confidence, courage, to be that hero who says, whatever shows up in me, even if it looks like a monster, right? That is my broken off soul piece that I need to love back to health. Like sometimes, a lot of times, I have these parts I call the teak parts because they are the color of teak wood. So what's happened is they've been like kind of like petrified. Like I was so terrorized that they become petrified and like frozen. Another image I use is Han Solo in Star Wars when he's like frozen in that freezy plate. Remember? So like they're petrified, they're frozen in time, and they're like in a coma or something. And then I'll take them, like I'll find them in my inner work, in my IFS work. Okay, like because just to the overview of the IFS process is that you negotiate with the protectors to allow you to go down to the exiles, right? And you just part of why it's so scary for the protectors is you don't know what you'll find. And you can find really weird stuff like this, okay? So I'm like, hey, say like I start out where I have a part that wants to eat, a tasty treat, right? And I'm like, I hear that you always want to eat the tasty treats, but I'm wondering, like, if we kind of don't want to be eating the tasty treats all the time, would you let me go to the exiles who you are just basically like using the tasty treats to like, numb them and like calm them down and keep them in their comas, right? That's why you use the tasty treats because it's like, oh, I have pleasure, I feel good. And so then I don't notice that like numb, broken space inside of me, right? It's distracting me from like that emptiness or that harm that's deep down inside of me. But if I heal what is deep down inside of me, then you won't have to stuff tasty treats into me all the time, Because at a certain point, it's not even fun to eat tasty treats. If you like, you've eaten like a pint of ice cream and now you're eating the second pint of ice cream, you're like, oh my God, could there be a better way? You know what I mean? So we go down. So the firefighters often will finally say, the protectors finally say, okay, you know what I'm doing does make me insane. I would prefer if you could handle it a different way. Fine, you try it. Okay, good luck to you. Good luck. Have fun down there, right? So I'm like, thank you for letting me go there. They've given me permission. So I go to the exiles. And then what do I get? I get some comatose, frozen, like little girl who's like, wood? What is that? You know what I mean? Like, whoa. And the parts are like, whoa, told you it was going to be bad, like this is screwed up, right? So I bring them to the parts hospital or some safe place, and then usually by just being with them, like I'm not trying to do anything, right? Because you're never trying to like fix anybody or like change anything. You're just using the power of awareness and presence to like allow what wants to happen. You can begin this process of developing a relationship with the exile. And sometimes Tony Herbine Blank is the IFS trainer who does couples work, and she'll show videos of horse trainers, like horse whisperers, where like there's a very abused horse, and she just shows these videos, and you can look online for horse whisperer or whatever and watch one and just get a sense of what I'm talking about. They're so loving, like the horse trainer just kind of stays and kind of attunes with the horse as it moves around and it jumps around, and the horse trainer's not trying to definitely not trying to like jump on its back or anything or like do anything to like control it. It's just being with. Same thing with an exile. So I just sit on the bed and I just however close feels comfortable, and I'm just with this part, and then gradually eventually I'll usually hear a little voice or something that will start to emerge, and then it will start to tell me about itself and about how did it get frozen, and I'll just listen, and then gradually it starts to tell me the story, and the more that I prove that I can handle it, right, and that I can listen and witness how bad it was and be a container for all of its emotions, because it might be angry, it might be sad, who knows, it might be scared, but if I can be a container for those emotions and I can just stay, it'll gradually unfold. But a big part of this process of working with a very frozen, deeply exiled exile, right, is being able to withstand their rage and anger, because they are often just like they call themselves. They'll be like, "I'm a feral little beast. I'll bite you," and I'm like, "That's fine," right? Because they don't like me, they don't like anybody. They're so radioactive with rage from the perpetration that was like pushed into them, right? So sometimes I'll go through, it could be a couple weeks or even months where they'll trust me a little, but then they'll be like, I don't know about you, I'll bite you, and I'm like, I don't, like, I'm invisible, the self is invisible inside of you, more or less. Like, I mean, you might see, like, sometimes I see myself as under like an invisibility cloak, like in Harry Potter. So I'm kind of there, but I'm kind of not there. And so if they're like, I'm going to bite you, I'm like, well, Sarah, I mean, I don't care if they bite me. What? I'm invisible. Like, either you're going to bite through me, okay, which, because I'm invisible, Or sometimes I'll say something which usually makes them mad, which is like, well, would you like me to make myself more like solid so that you get a nice bite? Like, right? Like, so that it'll be more enjoyable for you. They're like, ah, you don't care. You don't care if I bite you. And I'm like, no, you can bite me all you want. I mean, if you bite me, I mean, I'm the self. So like, I'm indestructible. So take a nice chunk out, do what you want with it, and then I'm just going to grow it right back. Like I'm going to magically heal myself immediately. I mean, I've had parts that are like, I'll cut your head off. I'm like, please be my guest. So they do. And then I take my head that they just chopped off and I put it right back on my head. And I'm like, we can do this all day. It's fine,
Wow.
right? So like the
Makes
self,
sense.
the self can handle the rage and anger of the parts. And sometimes they will direct it at you. And that's okay. That's fine. That's part of the process. It's no big deal. Not at all. Nothing to be afraid of. Nothing to be afraid of. Yeah.
True. Now, I would want to, share, something that happened, I think 2 weeks back. I mean, that I write mostly on narcissistic parents and the kind of harm they cause their children. And I have observed, I mean, it was inside of me. And I wanted to speak about it. This phenomena that I have observed, a lot of these folks, out there who are spiritual healer, tarot card reader, karmic teacher. I don't know what all new names they have. Okay, I get it. It's a business. You can, do whatever you want. No harm. But what I have observed is that they are big time into selling pain as purpose, and that is something that infuriates me. That is something that is very triggering to me. And they come up with all different kinds of theories and logic, and they even gaslight you, and they tell you, I mean, people like you and me, that we chose our parents from past life. So basically what they're trying to tell me, what I feel, I mean, this is absolutely personal, what I feel is that I was beaten, sexually abused, so I was in heaven or hell, wherever I was, seated, and I was doing chit chat with everyone, preferably God, the superior sky daddy. And I'm telling him that, can you just put me through this, I mean, sexual, abuse and this and that. I really want to have a good learning lesson while I'm back on earth. I mean, what the f. And I wrote about this. I drafted a nice post, and I posted on my threads. And then comes I don't know, very wacky kind of an individual. I'm not here to judge, but their action and behavior is making me say and use these words. This woman comes, and then she writes that probably it's your soul contract. In another lifetime, you were the abuser and they were the child. So it's a flip script this time. And just work it out. This is what soul contract is. And it literally drove me nuts. I was like, I mean, what is exactly happening in this world? Rather than validating our pain and experience, people are coming with different range of logic to gaslight us into what? Just remaining silent and suffer in silence, and that's it, and worshiping our abuser. So I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, have you observed, I mean, since the time you are here on this planet, have you observed that there is a lot of this selling going on, where they are selling pain as purpose? What are your thoughts, Melissa?
Well, first I want to say that this move, right, where she tells you like what your soul chose,
Yeah.
that's a you statement, okay?
Mm-hmm.
No one has the right to tell you about your own soul. That's really invasive. That's very invasive. I mean, we all have the right to decide how we make spiritual sense of being on this super crazy planet, okay?
True.
But nobody has a right to tell me or you what you decided. So, first of all, that move, that abrogates the right, like, just your sovereignty and your self determination. She cannot be inside of you. She's not in you. She doesn't know your soul. She's not your soul. So she can't speak for your soul. So right there, that's a verbal abuse move, right? So that's really not okay. And I think if people want to understand more about that move, the book that I love the best is by Patricia Evans. I talk about it all the time, The Verbally Abusive Relationship, where she really talks about people who want to have power over other people instead of mutuality. So this is a power over move where she's telling you what your experience, your interior experience is, and that's extremely invasive and it's unacceptable. So first of all, let's be clear about that. That's just not okay, right? Second, another move that she's making is she is basically reversing the victim and offender here, right? She's like trying to
Darvo.
say there's like these karmic scales of justice. And she's telling you that you were a perpetrator in a past life, so therefore
Mm.
deserve this. That is, I mean, whoa, 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 you deserve it? No, that is so unacceptable. And it really is a form of Darvo, like you said, deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. You are the victim. You had a perpetrator, like, period, right? So, I mean, if people want to learn more about Darvo, right, they can study Jennifer Freyd,
Mm.
Freyd, because she is the person who came up with it. And she
Yep.
is an excellent source of great information because she also came up with the idea of the betrayal trauma theory. And that theory is that the closer someone is to you, the more you are betrayed by their harm, and therefore the deeper the trauma is. So most people, I think, understand that when it's your own parent doing the harm, that's the deepest harm that can be committed to you because not only is it harm, but it's also you're losing the person, you're losing access to what for many people would be the person they'd go to for support or healing. But no, for us, that's the perpetrator, right? So it cuts much deeper. And she is a very she has a lot of ethos here, meaning like her background, we really can like trust what she's saying because her parents are the ones who created the false memory society. So she was like, hey, my parents sexually abused me, and her parents, instead of just denying it, which most parents do, they went a whole step further and they created a society of pedophiles to deny that children ever get abused and to say that no, these children are always making it up, the false memory society. So that's like really taking it to a whole other level.
And the best part, Melissa, after getting so irritated and infuriated with her comment, I went back, to her profile to see, I mean, to just, psychoanalyze as to what kind of a creature I'm dealing with. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. But, and, and I see that, she calls herself an oracle, a druid, a high priestess, I don't know what all was there. And also she goes by this presentation that she's a gypsy cowgirl tarot reader and healer, and she channels Palladian messages. Okay, I get it. I mean, you can do whatever you need to do to survive, which is fine. But when I talk about pain, you're coming and dismissing my pain outrightly. I mean, as what you said, I mean, it's really, really harmful and bad what she did. And on the flip side, they are living in some kind of a delusion, or maybe they are addicts. I mean, I was also an addict, and I have recovered, and I can totally understand that she might be in that state. I was also there for some time where I felt I'm infallible, I can just do anything. Or, I mean, I was maybe channeling something or whatsoever, however you put it. But I can totally resonate. But I never went to an extent, of, literally going and invalidating someone's pain and misery. Well, you were shot dead, or experienced this because of your past life karma. How convenient. And I really find this real bullshit. I mean, about this karma thing. I'm sorry, okay, people can believe, but I really find it totally garbage that, you need to be silent. You cannot give them back. Karma is a bitch and she's going to do her dance. When is she going to do? When I'm going to die? when I'm gonna be in grave, or when I'm, gonna be cremated and my ashes will be there in the end, on earth all over? When is that going to happen? So I personally feel this karma theory is also used to further lobotomize us and euthanize us, from getting up and taking any action, and fighting the abuser. I mean, what are your thoughts about this karma thing, that karma is going to eventually take over, and just be patient?
Yeah, I mean, I don't buy it. I mean, I think like as human beings, we were given the full range of emotions.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that the universe creates things for no good reason, right? Like lately, I've on this kick where I'm getting rid of all the oxalate foods in my diet.
Yeah.
Oxalates are little like plant toxins, they're little
Mm.
crystal or acids, right? Oxalic acid. And plants like use them as a defense chemical to like keep bugs from eating their bark, and the wrong animals from eating them, and to protect their seeds. Like I saw this really cool picture of a raspberry seed with a little ring of oxalate crystals all around it, right? So like
Wow.
the oxalates were created by the universe, to protect the plants. That's their one of their absolute main defense chemicals, yeah? And I mean, when you start learning about, I mean, I feel like when a person starts learning about oxalates, sometimes it's so mind-boggling that so many of the foods we eat have these toxins in them that are really damaging to us. They cause kidney stones. Me personally, they cause plantar fasciitis. They caused all kinds of joint pain. They can up to 85% of people age 50 or over have oxalate crystals in their thyroid. So that's like our whole epidemic of thyroid problems could be oxalate.
Oh God.
And when you find out what foods they're in, like foods people eat a lot of, okay, like peanut butter, chocolate, spinach, almonds, cashews, chard. It's like sweet potatoes, black beans. You're like, what? Like your brain is doing, my brain just went like I can't get down. This is crazy. This just does not make sense. How could all these foods that people eat all the time, how could people say that this is really causing this much damage? This is craziness. This is no. I'm not down with this. This is wackiness, right? So I learned about
Mhm.
oxalates maybe 15 years ago, but I didn't get serious about them because I was like, it's too crazy, right? So my point here is that the reality is we live in a world where there are really things that seem insane, but they exist for a purpose. And it isn't
True.
necessarily like your purpose or my purpose, right? Like, and they can be, I don't know. Like, so when it comes to the reality that we have all this anger, okay? Like, anger is like our oxalate. Like, trauma survivors have anger for a reason, okay? It is our human defense chemical, the same way oxalates are plant defense chemicals, right? It says no. It's a boundary. It's like, I'm not, like, you feel it in your brain. You're like, no, right? Anger activates action to push something bad away. That is the purpose of anger. It is to help us have boundaries. And boundaries are so hard for trauma survivors because our boundaries were trampled. Our boundaries were annihilated. We never learned how to have good boundaries. But anger is in us. And when we are able to embrace it, the natural anger that's just in us, the rage, okay, when we are able to really do our healing work, and I mean, I, I know sometimes it is not comfortable to be that flippin' angry because I mean, I'm lava. Okay. I am burning. It's like I feel like I am on fire. I'm one of those like, monks in Vietnam who like set themselves on fire, right, to protest the Vietnam War. Like I'm like, no, I protest how I was treated. Like my entire like dude, I am so angry. My rage is so intense. Okay. It's like it's cellular, it's mitochondrial. You know what I mean? It's like it's going so far. Like I'm all rage, right? And I think we need to expand our capacity to burn, right? To burn and burn and burn with this rage, to burn it through because we've got to burn it through. And the universe gave us this anger and rage to help us get the clarity we need to get the bad influences out of our life because, quite frankly, we have bo diddly boundaries. Trauma and abuse survivors have crap boundaries, okay? Because we were conditioned. We were brought up to have nothing, no boundaries, okay? But every creature needs a boundary. You know, a tree needs bark to keep things from eating it to death, right? Like everything needs a boundary. Nations have boundaries, right? Cities have boundaries. People need boundaries. Everybody needs boundaries. We have to keep the bad out and the good in, okay? Like when people have leaky gut, right? That's where your gut doesn't have boundaries. And then, you get autoimmune stuff and like all kinds of problems. Why? Because the bad stuff is leaking into your bloodstream, okay? Everything needs a boundary. So we need these boundaries, and anger is the building block of boundaries. So we need it. And all this like spiritual, religious, cultural, oh no, but loving people just let people walk all over them and you don't be angry. No. It's all lies. It's all lies. It's all lies designed to allow people to keep taking from you what is not theirs. It's not okay.
True. And, I have also, I personally feel that anger, in a way, hatred, rage, all of these are like our defense system,
Yes, they
which is
are.
naturally there inside of us.
Yes.
And these, I don't know, I really don't want to spoil my tongue and sound indecent, but these fucked up individuals, these gang of abusers, enablers, and their flying monkeys, this entire
Mhm.
ecosystem, they handicap you
Yeah,
by making anger, rage, hatred as unholy. This is
right.
forbidden. This is bad. This is not what God said. So God said what? Get yourself effed up
Mhm.
again and again and again and
Yeah,
just wait for him to come and rescue. He gave you two hands. He gave you two legs. He gave you a mouth to abuse. He gave you a hand to slap and hit and safeguard yourself. So what I personally feel is it's like an engineered thing to in a way strip you from your agency, in a way to disconnect you from the core. And when you're disconnected from your core, you become a cabbage, and they
yep,
can just make anything out of you, a soup or a sauerkraut or any crap they can make out of you. So you're
yep.
just docile and submissive. God is going to do justice. I'm just going to be quiet. I'm going to be a good girl. I'm going to be a good boy. So I personally feel there's a lot of crap, when we look at anger, jealousy, rage, hatred. I don't feel bad if I feel this hatred towards someone who has hurt me. Why do I need to empathize and be compassionate towards those who have hurt me horribly? If someone advocates that I need to do otherwise, I think they're insane. I don't need such people around me.
Yeah.
It's absolutely okay to hate my abusive parent. It's absolutely okay to hate my abusive ex. It's absolutely okay to hate my abusive sibling. It's absolutely okay to hate my abusive teacher. What's wrong? I'm not going there with a dagger and threatening them. Why do you have to demonize our brain? Why do you have to demonize our natural response? Why do you have to demonize our very own existence, agency, and our core, the way it is designed by the universe? Why do you have to go to that micro and cellular level and alter things, manipulate into becoming a docile being, a cabbage? i,
Mm,
I mean I personally don't buy that. But yes, I was there when I used to buy it, and I wanted to be the bigger person. You want to slap me, I have got other cheek also, slap me here also. And there is a lot of folks out there in history also, historically, who are actually selling these things, that karma is going to take care of it. If someone is slapping you on one cheek, I think it was Mahatma Gandhi or someone. If someone is slapping you on one cheek, give them another cheek. Why can't I slap back? Are you mad, you moron? You don't want me to protect myself. Why? Because you're putting the sheet of morality, your own perceived morality, moral standards that you need to abide by, and then you will exist. Otherwise, you're a bitch, you're an outcast, you're an abomination. I totally disagree, whenever they come at me, or whenever I hear people saying, don't be angry on them. they did what they did, but you have to move on. You have to forgive. No, I don't need to forgive. I have moved on, babes. I'm doing very better. I'm in a better place being angry. Thank you so much. I don't have to let go. I'm
And
in a better place.
notice the you statements there. You have to forgive. You have to move.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, you have a right. No, no, no. Just I am absolutely 100% opposed to these negative, prescriptive, invasive you statements. I have
Mm.
sovereignty and I will decide what I will do and you can decide what you will do and you do not get to tell me what I will do. You do not get to tell me.
Absolutely. And I personally feel whether it is any spiritual path, tradition, religious tradition, path, or cultural norm whatsoever, anything that is forbidding me from being human, that means on the full spectrum, I'm not going to follow that path or tradition. I'm not going to take them seriously. Anger is absolutely a normal response. I will exercise it, I will have access to it, and I will show it and express it. I
Yep.
mean, you find it bad, go
Also,
ahead.
you look, people often conflate, they mix together anger and violence. We are not
Oh, yeah.
we are not talking about violence. What we're
That's
talking
what.
about, right, is not committing the violence against ourselves of restricting our full range of natural responses to having violence perpetrated against us, right? So I really believe that if we were more able to hold our own rage and anger and process through it, burn it, burn it, burn it, burn it off, right? Then people, I mean, because the people who commit terrible crimes, right, who commit violence they are often angry, right? But they haven't worked through the anger psychologically. And if we give ourselves permission to work through something psychologically, then we don't feel the need to act it out. So I honestly think that if you are opposed to violent actions, then you need to be more encouraging of rageful and angry feelings to be processed. Because I do believe that at the end process of anger, there is like, we don't just burn forever, nothing burns forever. Okay. So, I mean, let's think about the process of responding to being assaulted. I think it's very similar to, not the same. Okay. I'm not alleging that it's the same, but I'm saying that one paradigm you can use to process through your anger and your response to trauma, which I use, which I like, is Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's like 5 stages of grief, right?
Mm.
So she talks about how, first there's denial, which we all had when we were kids. We just had to stuff it down. We didn't know, right? Then there's bargaining. Well, like it happened, but maybe it wasn't that bad, right? Then we get to anger. I am furious, okay? And we got a lot of anger to burn through. But I do believe that once we burn through anger, we do get to grief. It is really horribly tragic that these devastatingly broken individuals, you know, had children that they then chose to destroy. That's terrible. I mean, think about what they miss out on, right? Like, so there is grief. We can grieve what was missed, what we didn't get, what they didn't get, how pathetically tragic this is, right? And then once we grieve, we're able to accept that this happened, okay? And that process, right? I'm making it look linear as if it happens in stages, and it doesn't. It looks like this, like you'll have a moment of anger and then you'll go back to bargaining, and you'll have a moment of grief and then you'll go back to anger, and you know what I mean, you ping pong all around the process, but the overall arc of the process over time is that you're gradually moving from denial through bargaining through anger and rage into grief and then finally acceptance. So when we let the what our emotional system is designed to do, which is to move us through some emotional process, whether this is how you perceive it or some other way, I don't care, but you move through the process and you allow and allow and allow and allow and you move it and you move it. Eventually, you will burn it out. You will get to a place where you are not burning with rage for this person. And I know for sure this is the case because I've had exes, okay, who were atrocious individuals. I mean, atrocious, okay? Because of course, I mean, coming out of a very abusive, sexually abusive childhood, of course I got
Right.
myself in horrible relationships. I attracted the most horrible people because those were the patterns that I knew. No shame on me. I am not blaming me. I have compassion for me. I have self forgiveness, right? So I attracted them to me and I went through some terrible stuff because of course, thank you mom and dad, you set me up to have yet more terrible experiences, right? That's what they do. They program us for it. So but I worked on those relationships. Like I remember one that I had in college. It was, oh my God. I mean, I probably attracted the most psychopathic individual for like 7 miles all around. You know what I'm saying? Like good for me. Okay. It was horrible, horrible. But I worked on it and I can honestly say now, like when I think about this dude, I'm just like, I mean, yeah, he was really bad. And in some ways, I think that when you get to the end point of this process of acceptance, it can seem similar to denial. Like, because both spots on the spectrum, both spots are like places of low activation. Like when you're in denial on a scale of 1 to 10, you may be like, I don't know, I feel like 0 or 1, right? And then you go up the scale and you're like, when you're bargaining, you're like 3, 4. And then when you're angry, you're like 9, 10, you're burning, 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 right? And you burn through it. And then you start to grieve and you're like going down to like an 8 or a 6 or a 5 or a 4. And then as you gradually get into acceptance, you go down, you go back down to like 2, 1, 0, right? So that's like the bell curve of the process of really moving through your emotions. And I mean, it looks as if I didn't do any work on this guy, but I did a lot of work. And even though he was absolutely horrific, I just, I don't know. I mean, I don't have curiosity about what he's doing in his life, what other women he's destroying, like whatever insane, maybe criminal things he's doing. I'm like, you know, he's just a person that I used to know. I had terrible experiences and I'm over it. So having done that in myself many, 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 many times, because I've attracted many, 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 verbally abusive, narcissistic, abusive people, right? Like that's my life history. I've had to do this over and over and over and over, and I've gotten to the other side of it. So I really, to answer your question about can you heal, I do believe you can get down to where it's just not that activating anymore. But it takes a lot of work. It just takes a lot of work. And if you can't go to that high pitch right here of rage and anger, you're never going to start coming down the other side. Like if you see it as a bell curve, right, where like, you start at, you start if you start at the bottom of the bell curve with denial and then you go up to bargaining, you have to reach that really high pitch of anger before you can go down the other side of grief and acceptance. That's my opinion.
True. Melissa, if I'm not mistaken, Carl Jung, once said that, whatever you resist not only persists, but will also grow in size over a period of time. Now, I would want to know from the lens of IFS, how does societal, messages that, anger is, unsafe impact, you know, or let me rephrase. I mean, how do societal messages, that anger is unsafe impact, for our emotional system and the inner parts? What are your thoughts?
Oh, great question. So, as a brief overview of IBIS, I like to look at it as a equilateral triangle, right? Where, you have the protectors at the top. So they're like here. And then the exiles are like wounded children at the bottom, and they're equilaterally distanced apart. And the protectors are the ones that, generally speaking, are going to be the angry ones, right? And the managers are proactively like angry, like maybe say I have someone who, if I call them, they're gonna bully me. So then the managers proactively will be like, do not call that person, right? So it's like avoiding, like dealing with it, like protecting you in advance, right? But of course, that doesn't always work because like you said, you could be online and then you read some wacky person who just comes out of like nowhere and just goes ow and like just scratches you with all their used statements. You're like, what is happening, right? So then your firefighters come up, right? And firefighters are the parts that react immediately in the moment when your little like, your wounded parts get, spit on and kicked and, scratched, right? So then the firefighters come up and they're like the ones who will try to get angry in response, but there really are real burning anger parts, and they're the ones that will act out in anger and the ones that people are afraid of, right? And my experience with my firefighters, I mean, my main method of numbing and calming my exiles with my firefighters' main method, okay, was to eat. I mean, I had a severe eating disorder, life threatening. And then after I cured that in 3 months using IFS twice a week, thank you, Susan Mason, my fabulous IFS therapist. What happened was I still had a sugar addiction, but I wasn't like threatening my life with my eating disorder, but I was still very deeply sugar addicted. And so I used sugar for like another 20 years to like just numb, 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 right? And what I noticed is that like in both, well, I noticed that before I got IFS, right, before I started to really work through and process my trauma, my firefighters were escalating. Okay. So they were getting worse over time because the more I'm stuffing it down, the more I'm stuffing it down, like I'm just, and the more I'm bringing negative, harmful people into my life because of this same patterning, right? Like I'm just accruing more and more trauma. My trauma is festering. It's like, I don't know, it's like sauerkraut. It's like fermenting, it's just getting worse and worse, right? And so, like, while my eating disorder, say, was like moderate, when I was like, say, 20, it was just mostly sugar addiction, but it slowly got like worse and worse until I was really binging and then I was throwing up, you know, and now I'm throwing up like, say, maybe once a month, but now it's like every 3 weeks and it's every 2. I mean, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. So I think one of the things is that if you don't process, it does get worse over time. It festers, and all of our patterns where we repeat the trauma, right? Because that's like repetition compulsion that Freud talked about, right? Like if I was treated this way and that's what I feel is normal, and I'm totally repressing the truth that this was not okay, and I'm not aware, then I'm just going to keep. I mean, this is no blame or no shade or no shame on people who do this, right? Because I did it. I am saying because of how I was patterned and conditioned, I believed that it was okay to be treated this way. And so then I kept allowing people to treat me this way. And so I kept bringing these people into my life who kept hurting me and hurting me and hurting me. And finally, it just, the pain gets so, so bad. And like my life is so unlivable because I'm surrounded. I mean, at a certain point in my life, I was literally surrounded wall to wall with toxic, narcissistic people because my main perpetrators, my quote unquote parents, my ex parents, they were narcissistic, right? So they just patterned me to be the lock that fit that key, right? And so I'd be like, oh, another key, oh, another key, oh, and they'd open the door and I'd have no boundaries and they'd come in and they'd wipe their shitty shoes all over my consciousness. And I'd be like, oh, I feel terrible. I hate my life. So, I mean, eventually I had to start getting these people out of my life. And what was the power, the rocket fuel I used to do that? Anger and hatred. Because
So true.
I mean, and the amount of energy it takes any human being to say, I am going to actually cut off from my parents, it is, I mean, if I could use that fuel to go somewhere, I would be on Mars right now. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it takes so much energy to cut those cords to your own parents because the longing and the grief is so vicious and horrific. And the conditioning and the programming and the gaslighting has been the brainwashing is like, my brain was scrubbed, right? Like what it takes to actually overcome all this is phenomenal. And I am in awe of the power of you and me and everyone who actually says, I'm really gonna work this, right? So anger is the rocket fuel that helps you set those boundaries. I mean, my parts were just like, I will never talk to that woman again. My ex-mother, like, even though there's such a longing and such a grief and such a sadness, and oh, but what about when she's nice? Because most of the time narcissists do sometimes, have those phases where they are nice, and then you get intermittent reinforcement, and so they create this like cycle of longing where it's like, oh, if I could just be better, or if I could just walk on eggshells enough, then I could get the love. And it's like, no, that is a poisoned source of love. We have to cut it off completely. We have to get the love from inside now. We got to do a U-turn because they are not the source. We have to come from here. We have to learn to source it from ourselves. But that is one of the hardest journeys on earth. It is so, so, so hard. And without anger and hate, you're never going to get there, because who the hell, if you did not hate your own parents, who would cut them off? No one.
So true.
Mhm.
And I personally feel these narcissistic parents, these narcissistic individuals, they are very much into performative love,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They
performance.
look
It's
so
almost like a,
good.
yeah, theater performance. They are prepping up and they want to be seen a certain way. I mean, it's never from the bottom of their heart. I mean, it's not out of genuine love. It's all about how they are being seen, how their action reflects them. That's it. I mean, it's all performative love, performative grief. Everything is all performance based, nothing genuine that
Yeah.
they really care about you.
Mhm.
Now, Melissa, if I'm not mistaken, William James uh, describes emotions as the body's, a kind of a testimony of truth.
Mm.
Now, I would want to know, how does society's moralizing of anger shape the way survivors relate to their rage and revenge impulses? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I really think that the way IFS talks about parts is so helpful for this, because I think
Mm-hmm.
that it's the manager parts of us that are trying to manage the rage, right? Like sometimes I think of it as like a big chicken trying to sit on the eggs of rage, trying to keep it from hatching, right? Like the managers are so afraid of the anger of the firefighters. They worry that if I let you experience this anger, you're either going to go get a gun, knife, you know what I mean? You're going to act out in a crazy way, or that like we're literally just not going to be able to tolerate, the intensity of the rage. And I mean, look, we do not have protectors. We don't have managers for no good reason either, right? And it may be true that there are some people who don't have resources, like don't have like the time, the support, I don't know, right? And so they actually right now it may be like, say, when I was a kid, okay, the best thing for my managers to do was sit on my rage, because that helped me survive, and it also helped me not become the Menendez brothers, right? I mean, I'm just saying, like, it really is true. We cannot be in an eye for an eye forever, right? And that justice exists in part to help us feel that my need for revenge, which is legitimate,
Mm-hmm.
satisfied by justice, right? I mean, I can't say like this like just one idea that we could noodle around with when it comes to justice is like, the ancient Greeks have beautiful mythology around this idea, like the idea that we're going to create a justice system to satisfy your thirst for revenge, instead of endlessly, you killed my dad, so I'm killing your mom, so I'm killing yours. You know what I mean? Like, right? Like we can't do that. And even though we do feel the urge, like hate and anger do move us towards revenge. Okay, they do make us want. They give us the urge, yeah, to get justice, to balance the scales, right? But we cannot take it into our own hands. It's really true. We have to trust society to do that for us. And I mean, the real problem here is that we live in a society that doesn't give us justice. That's why everybody's like, release the Epstein files, right? Because everybody's like, it's not fair that these people in power get to have sex with children without repercussions. Like, that is why this issue arises, because we want justice. It is not okay, right? A lot of people are not okay with children being trafficked to rich men. Surprise, huh? So, but we cannot take justice into our own hands. We really can't, because then we don't have civilization, right? So that when we work with our parts, we as childhood trauma survivors are at a particular disadvantage over adult crime survivors, because many times adult crime survivors, not all the time and not in all cultures and not even in, American culture for sure, right? I mean, I'm sure it's the same in India, right? Like many times, a rapist, I mean, like we had the case of Brock Turner, right? Okay, this was a guy, he raped a woman. There were two witnesses. Two witnesses. Okay. They saw it happen. They saw him doing it. They chased him on their bikes. They chased him down. They caught him, right? And what did he get? A slap on the wrist, like 6 months in jail. Like it's crazy.
Oh
Yeah.
God.
Now, to the credit of the people in Stanford, California, okay, they said, you know what? We're not okay with this. Like, this is not justice. Rape is not a 6 months in jail. This is BS. Okay. And so the judge, Aaron Persky, quite a name, they recalled him. They said, this is unacceptable. This is not justice. So now he is no longer a judge. So
Oh
he
God.
lost his job because he didn't understand the concept of justice, right? I mean, and that's like, that's a better, that was at least some better justice for the whole situation. I mean, it wasn't ideal justice, but I mean, so the point is though, yes, it is true that anger and hatred do push us to want revenge. And as civilized individuals, we need to move to justice, right? And like that revenge instinct has to be channeled into justice. And it's hard for childhood abuse survivors because we can't get justice. You know what? It's just he said, she said. I can't prove that, these people did anything right. I mean, I can't prove my dad sexually abused me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's dead. Okay. So I can say that. I'm not worried about libel because he's dead. Right. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my God. I'm so happy he's dead. Right. But, I mean, as other family members in my family come out and say, oh, I'm starting to get memories back of his abuse, I mean, then I'm more corroborated, and I mean, that's one way that some childhood abuse survivors can get some justice possibly is if there's more corroboration, right? Because that's how a lot of, say, like, uh, you know, religious abuse survivors end up putting their perpetrators in jail because these perpetrators don't just rape one kid, they rape 100, they rape 200, they rape 300. You know what I'm saying? And so if you get, dozens and dozens of people to corroborate the same story, then maybe, there's a case, right? But for a lot of us, it's just us in our childhood going through these atrocities. There's no, really, we can't get like justice from the justice system. But one thing that we can do is go no contact and say, I'm not going to gaslight myself. And I am not going to accept your narrative that you were a parent. Because in my opinion, just me as a rape survivor, as a sexual abuse survivor, right, from my parents, I believe that if you are a parent and you rape your child, then you just went over to like the DMV or the parent MV or whatever, and you traded in your parent card for a rape card. Okay. You're like, oh, I don't feel like being a parent anymore. I'd rather be a rapist. Because rape is forever. And rape trumps any other relationship. It wipes it out. Once you have raped someone, you have changed your fundamental relationship to that person, their consciousness, their body. Like you are their rapist forever. Nothing is going to ever change that. Like that's on you. You know what I'm saying? That's your responsibility. You're accountable for that, right? So me as a rape survivor, okay, if you rape me, then I'm going to call you my rapist forever. And I'm not going to call you by other names, whatever previous name I had with you, whether you were my friend or my boss or my boyfriend or my husband, it doesn't matter. Ever break into my body and annihilate and trash me, which is what rape does, then, I mean, I'm going to call, that breaking and entering by its name, which is rape. That is what it is when you break and enter into someone else's body. I can't go get another body. I have to live in this body. And if you break and enter in it and you trash it, you leave such an amazing cleanup job for me to do. Like I said before, it's like, oh, now I have to take thousands of pieces you just blew apart by breaking into, which is like detonating a bomb inside my consciousness, inside my body. And now I got to put it all back together. Oh, if you think I'm going to pretend that didn't happen, you've lost your mind. I'm calling spade a spade.
True. And I mean, I personally feel, I did experience and go through, those phases of this revenge impulse. It was strong inside of me, and I wanted to act on it. And I wanted to take revenge for what was done with me, whether it was my mother or my uncle abusing me in every way possible. But with time, I realized that that was the time when I was weak. I was dependent on them.
Hmm.
So my, course of action will be getting rid of them from my life, not doing anything bad, just going no contact.
Yeah.
But now, if something like that happens with me, or if somebody violates the boundary and tries to do things with me, my first line of defense is that I'm going to fight. And second thing is I'm going to take help of the legal system. I
Yeah.
mean, my personal, belief is that the legal system, judiciary, it's all, in a way to slow down the process of judgment. And so that you get frustrated and you just give up. And of
Uh,
course, these days everything is, on sale. So if you have money, the green stuff, the power of the green stuff, you can get it in your favor. So I really don't expect much, from the justice system. But definitely, I don't advocate and promote running around with axes and, machete.
all
No,
right.
I don't do that. But yeah, I mean, getting rid of your abuser is in your hand. If it's, crossing that threshold, just get the crap, out of your life, out of your system. And I think that's the most powerful thing which we are not taught and trained and exposed to, that we have the power to protect ourselves. We are made so vulnerable that others also take advantage of us, and then further, demonize our natural expression. So I think revenge is good. I mean, I like taking revenge, but my way is, going no contact. If it's all verbal abuse, manipulation, okay, sweetie, I'll go no contact. You enjoy, have a good time. But if you're going to go physical, I'm going to go physical. And if you're going to do more, I'm going to take help. I'm going to call in my husband, maybe police, maybe this XYZ. I'm going to do that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I personally don't feel, bad about revenge. I think we all should exercise it, but in a moral and a civil way, and not becoming, crazy individuals and demonic individuals. Be sane. And I think everyone, should have, this thing inside of them, that, they get satisfied after, them witnessing their abuser, meeting, the actual thing that they deserve. Because this is what judiciary is outsourcing, this is what police is outsourcing. You don't, do the judgment yourself, we will do it on your behalf. And the best part, I can delay it. I can get bribed and I can delay it. So, I mean, that aspect is also there. But yeah, I mean, now my boundaries are so high and so reinforced and, so good and strong that I will never be in that situation. But yeah, I mean, I don't feel shy in taking revenge from my abusers. I have got my own ways. But yeah, it's not bad. It's nothing demonic. I mean, God also, takes revenge. Let's go back there. I mean, God also takes revenge. He gets angry all the time. So, dude, God made me in, their reflection, in their image. So why can't I?
Yeah, and I
That-
really think the best revenge is to speak.
Mhm.
Like the
Yeah.
Giselle Pellico,
Yeah.
right? She was the woman that was, that story. She was raped by her husband and trafficked to like 70 men by her husband.
Oh God.
It's
Oh God.
horrific. It's one of the most deviously sick, perverse, evil rape cases
Hmm.
in French history for sure. And she said, "No, use my name." She went to court. Because victims don't, they can be anonymous, right? But she went to court. She just said, "I am Giselle Pellico. This is what my husband did to me, and shame must change sides." And when we
True.
speak, we say, "This is not my shame to carry. There is no shame on me. It's all on the perpetrator," because that's true. And coming back to also like the reality of how bad the justice systems are for people, and the Brock Turner case, right?
Mm.
One of the reasons why the judge got recalled is because the woman he raped, Chanel Miller, she wrote this most phenomenal victim impact statement. and it was just gorgeous. And it was like seen over by a million people, right? And then she ended up writing a book called Know My Name, and it's a fabulous book about just how deeply abusive. I mean, it's about a lot of things, about recovering from rape and speaking up, but also how abusive the judicial system is. I mean, for her to go into that courtroom every day with a judge who thought, oh, this is just worth 6 months in jail. I mean, it was horrific, and it really shows how, the justice system is like re-raping in a lot of ways, the survivors. So, I mean, I say, anyone who has been raped and then has to go through like, there's so many women do not report, right? And they don't try to get access to the justice system because the justice system often just re-victimizes you. And it's so re-traumatizing that it's like, it just makes it worse on a lot of levels. She did it. She only went to court because the detectives were like, well, this is the gold standard rape case. You have two witnesses. And she was like, well, I don't want this guy to go around doing this to other people. But like, what did something like a year in court get her? It got him off the streets for 6 months. What a joke. What a joke. What a joke. And they got to like re victimize him, gaslight, and just mess with her day after day after day in that courtroom. It was like, it's terror. I would be curious to know from her what was worse, the rape or the trial.
True.
I mean, I feel like the number one thing that we can do is reclaim our voice and our anger and our rage and our hatred and just speak that this is the truth of what it means to be perpetrated against and victimized. Okay? Our rage is righteous and sacred and holy.
Wow. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Mm-hmm.
I deeply resonate with Friedrich Nietzsche's work. I don't know if you're aware of his work. He wrote a very interesting piece, Thus Spake Zarathustra, where he talks about the God is dead. And I mean, he's a genius. I read in one of his essays or in one of the book, I don't remember the title, he wrote that the man who fights monsters must take care that he doesn't become one day he doesn't become a monster one day. Now I would want to know, Melissa, uh, what are your thoughts? I mean, could revenge serve as a psyche's mechanism for restoring balance? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? And how do we distinguish between revenge as pathology versus a natural response to injustice?
Well, I really think that's why we're so careful in this territory. I think if you speak and you like speak truth to power and name your perpetrator and you say, look, this person, like, there is healthy shame that they do carry because their
Mm,
acts are shameful. Perpetration is a shameful act. It just is, like, you know and so, I mean, I have a right to speak about being victimized. I have that right, and I can take that right. And that's probably my best revenge. That and, not like absolutely, absolutely, completely refusing to accept their narrative. I think that's also very satisfying. It's a form of like revenge in a certain way, because like you don't get to colonize my mind. You just don't get to. Like, no, your lies, your perpetration, it stops here. I am Teflon to that BS. You perpetrate against me, you are a rapist. I will say it until the day I die. I don't care. Okay, so that's how it's going to be. We're done. You traded in the card of whatever our previous relationship was. You got a new one. Okay, and I don't care why, because why doesn't change the fact that my body got ransacked, right? Like, all this why, blah, 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 right? Is like, okay, say you are a person who drops bombs in a war, right? And you drop a bomb and you hit a gas line and the gas line blows up and it happens to be a gas line to a kindergarten and then 100 kindergartners blow up, okay? And they're innocent, right? But
Mhm.
like you just because you didn't intend to kill 100 kindergartners, you dropped the bomb. When you do an act, you are responsible for the consequences of the act. Period, full stop. I don't care, right? You made that decision. That is on you. And whoever else was up the chain of command that, right? That's how it is. That's how reality is. Okay. I did not make the rules of reality. You are still accountable for your actions despite your best intentions, right? Like maybe you were traumatized. Maybe you acted out because of your trauma, but that's exactly what we're talking about. That the line of the intergenerational transmission of trauma has to stop somewhere. And we are talking about if we heal, paradoxically, if I allow all my rage and anger and hatred, okay, and all the natural consequences of that, speaking, telling the truth, being angry, feeling the anger in my body, right, doing that work, then I won't act it out because what, like, Jung said, like, what you don't like, something like, what you don't like, work with comes back and you just repeat it, you know? So I really do believe that this is the healing work that has to happen to stop these cycles, And like, what was the Nietzsche quote you were talking about here?
Nietzsche, I mean, he says that, in the process of fighting monsters, I mean, make sure that you take care of yourself so that you don't become one.
Right.
You
And I
don't
think
become a monster
that's
yourself.
important, right? That is important. I mean, I get to a point sometimes where, I mean, when I am, because one of my challenges, I really believe in my healing work. This sounds crazy, but it's really true. I have a lot of compassion and I have a lot of like understanding for why these, deeply troubled individuals harmed me. But that will block my ability to heal fully. Right. I need to allow the exiles in me, the little parts that were victimized, to be fully witnessed and heard and to fully move through their rage. And so I mean, this sounds crazy, but I have to learn how to hate better.
Wow, that makes sense.
Hmm.
That really makes sense.
Yeah, so I have to really get all the managers, all the ones who are like, "Oh no, but I have to let them step back." And like I can't do it all at once because I would just go poof and I'd be like gone. You know what I'm saying? So I start burning and burning and burning. And then when I'm like at a, I don't know, a 14 out of a 10 of rage, I'm like, okay, I got to stop now and take a break because I just can't be more angry. I'm like literally incapable. I don't know how. My body cannot, like, I'm not able to be as angry as I need to be. So I come back at it the next day. And so we just metabolize our anger and our rage and our hatred, on a day to day basis. And we may have to like actually expand our ability to be angry and rageful and hating because of all these messages that it's not okay. No, 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 no. Like, oh my God, what's going to happen if I like just let it all go? Well, you know what? You will burn through it if you burn and burn and burn. Viktor Frankl says, what gives light must endure burning.
True. Melissa, I personally feel, I mean, this is my opinion. There are two kinds of rage that I have experienced in my healing journey and practice, or since the time I'm on this planet. There is one rage that for sure liberates,
Hmm.
but there is one rage that can cause a lot of harm to you and to the others. Now, I would want to know, what are your thoughts? I mean, as an IFS coach, how can survivors identify sacred anger, anger that restores dignity and boundary, back in place, versus the destructive anger that, in a way keeps them stuck in that old cycle, old pattern? What are your thoughts?
Love the question. So I think it's absolutely the difference between firefighters and exiles.
Mm,
Firefighters often are like stuck on a hamster wheel of anger and rage towards the perpetrator, and they're like, "I hate them, I hate them,
mm,
Notice the tone. I hate them, I hate them, I hate them. But like, there's a difference between I hate them, I hate them, I hate them, right? And I hate them,
wow. Mm-hmm,
right?
mm,
You can feel the difference. One is a part that's still like unable to fully drop down into the truth of the depth of their real hatred, right? In part because a lot of times when you have tone, I teach a class on tone, which I just think is a really helpful technique. When you have tone, what you often have is polarization. So the firefighter who's saying, I hate them, I hate them, I hate them, doesn't it sound like they're fighting with someone, right? Who are they fighting with? They're often fighting with the manager, right? Like there's this firefighter here who's saying, I hate them, I hate them, I hate them. And then the manager's going, no, 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 no. The manager's trying to tell them it's not that bad. Oh, you don't have to hate them that much, right? So actually, the firefighter is caught in this cycle of trying to insist that they're angry because the manager is trying to like keep their anger down. And so that's why they keep being stuck. And so it's like this manager, firefighter. It's like this stuck, 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 stuck because you're stuck up here in the protectors. And that's very common to get stuck up in the polarization of the protectors. And so what you have to do is slow it down and get to know each part individually and really, 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 really open your heart to each part. You usually go to the managers first. That's kind of the order of operations in IFS is managers, then firefighters and exiles, generally speaking. And you say to the managers, what are you worried would happen if you let me just be with the firefighters? They're too angry. It'll burn us down. I hear that they are really angry and, it may involve some ego death. We may transform in ways that we can't predict, but what's it like for you that we're stuck in this cycle? Like, is this fun for you? And they're usually like, no, I'm like, well, I'm offering you a different way. I'm saying that if you stop trying to manage the firefighters, which is it working? And they're like, no, like, I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm just saying, like, if this technique that you're doing of constantly trying to sit on the firefighters is not working and all you both are doing is just like exhausting yourselves into an oblivion, right? Wearing like a little track in my brain, it's not that bad. I'm angry. It's not that bad. I'm angry. It's not that bad. I'm angry. Like, what? Are we going to do this for the next 20 years? I mean, I'm just asking for a friend, you know? So, like, the managers are finally like, fine, you deal with those flipping firefighters. You deal with them. It's on you, whatever they do. Okay, I take responsibility. It's on me, all right? Now the managers, I've negotiated with them, right? So now I go to the firefighters. Hey, guys, I hear you're really angry. They never let me be angry. They never let me be angry. They never let me be angry. They're always telling me I'm not, I'm too angry, blah, blah, blah. I got to get over it. Blah, blah, blah. It's not that bad. They're making me crazy. Right? And, right? I'm like, I hear you. Tell me more. And you invite them to actually get angrier, right? To get as angry as they want to get. And first they'll get angry at the managers, right? First they get angry at the managers. So let them do that. Then they might get angry at you. You never listen to me. Why do you let them attack me? You're right. I didn't. You are absolutely right. And you gotta just really like let them burn and burn and burn through their anger. Who knows how angry they get, right? Finally, they reach a point where they're like, I'm sick of being this angry. I am sick of it. I am sick of it. I'm like, well, I have a solution for you. What the fuck is it? I'll tell you what it is. There are exiles who are carrying their own anger, their own pain, their own grief about what happened. And if you let me go to them, I guarantee we can heal them. And then you won't have to protect them with all this anger. We'll see about this.
True.
Would you like me to do that? Well, you can do it, but it's on you. I mean, you do it, you try, you do it, right? So then you go to the exiles. And that's where the real sacred anger and rage is. Because the firefighter's anger isn't the true deep anger. The true deep anger is the exile's anger. I mean, exile's anger, right now I'm working on my mother assaulting me, and they say that they have the anger of 10,000 suns burning in them against her. That's kind of big, And the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey? I see it as like, that monolith, the black monolith. It's kind of like, in the movie. It's like a monolith that is full of 10,000 stars of rage and hatred. And that is their symbol for how much they hate her. And I welcome it. I say, guys, you know what? 10,000 suns is a, that's large, but it's not 100,000. So like we can work with this. And so, they come up with their ways for expressing the enormity and magnitude and depth of their rage and hatred. And I just welcome it and I say, we can work with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Melissa, I personally feel at this point of time that rage is a kind of a life force, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And
Very.
when you start experiencing rage, I personally feel that is a sign or a signal that the life force is again returning inside of you after years of suppression, conditioning, all that bullshit and garbage that you were put through. Now, I would want to know you as an IFS coach. I mean, from a psychological and somatic perspective, I mean, what do you think happens when survivors like us in some other space or some other time, some other location, if survivors allow themselves to, fully feel and experience and channel their rage? What are your thoughts, Melissa?
I really believe that it's the key to unlocking our true sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I think a lot of us have been like sealed inside of, like a safe, a fireproof safe, that
Mm-hmm.
like 1,000 pounds, and we're on the
Mm-hmm.
side, and we've been sealed in there by trauma and perpetration and violence and violation and being shut down and being repressed and social, like messages and religious messages and all of our parents brainwashing and gaslighting and lying. And it's like, we are we are screwed. We are inside of like a locked safe, right? With like, layers and layers and layers and layers that we have to blow through. And rage is what really unlocks us and gets us out of that prison. And so I'm just like, I say yes, yes to, like very working with rage and working with hatred in safe ways so that we can just blow it out, blow it open, without hurting anybody else, but blow open that cage and get free. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Melissa, if we could reshape, I mean, if we have this ability and power to reshape, cultural narratives that is out there around, be it anger, rage, and revenge for survivors, I mean, what according to you would be, a healthy understanding of all these things, and what truths are we in a way collectively missing by demonizing these things, whether it is rage, anger, hatred, revenge? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think we have to be, we do. I mean, the managers who are afraid of these things, we have to have compassion for the truth that there is truth, that we cannot just act out our revenge fantasies, right? And we cannot allow our firefighters to act on anger and hate, right? Because that's just, passing the trauma along. And so we really do have to validate that they do have legitimate fears, that it's not okay to act on these things, right? Like not act out like violently or criminally. Yeah. And that the ways to do it, we have to do it in ways that are healthy, like expressing ourselves, speaking our truths, like we've got to do it, or cutting, using the justice system, or going no contact, right? So these are like healthy ways of expressing it, right? So we do have to discern. There is discernment involved. It's not just willy-nilly, right? We're not saying it's just all or nothing. They're like degrees of like, there's a line. There are some things that are not healthy, and then there are things that are healthy, and we're encouraging people to discern that and to really do the inner work, because you don't have to censor your imagination or your emotions if you don't fear acting it out, right? Then you can just allow it to be as big as it needs to get, because that's how you move through it naturally. That's what it's there for. So I think, I mean, we do have this society that has a lot of toxic positivity, right? And we just have to say no to that. We have to say no. Like making half of the range of all my emotions good and half bad is as stupid as saying men are the good half and women are the lesser half, right? Like, this is stupid. But the mind is constantly trying to, like, oh, white people are better, people who are darker are less. Like, this is stupid. This is stupid. This is stupid. This is stupid, right? So, like, peace is better than hate. No, this is stupid, right? Like, no, both have their place. Life is yin and yang, right? We cannot have yin without yang. Like, do you want to have daytime all day, every day? No nighttime? You know what I mean? Like, do you want to have sun all day, no rain? Like, okay, good for you. Now there are no crops. Like, now we all die. You know what I'm saying? You just can't have all, like, the quote unquote, the positive thing until the end of time. That is stupid. Everything is yin and yang. And the same goes for love and hate, and like peace and anger. It is what it is. We have to have both, and unless we can embrace that natural rhythmicity that we are living in as humans. I mean, we just live in rhythm after rhythm after right. Like, I mean, everything. We breathe in and out, or are we gonna all just breathe in all the time? Then we're dead, right? We're awake, then we're asleep. Oh, are we going to be awake all the time? Then we're dead. You know what I'm saying? So same thing. Are we going to be like happy and loving all the time and never have hate and anger? Then we're dead. It's the same thing. Like, stop with with this insanity of one thing is good, one thing is bad. You can't have that thing. It's just absurd.
Absolutely. And I personally feel until unless you don't experience, feel, and express the entire range of emotions, I don't think you will connect, with your real self. You will never be able to let that self come through. He or she will be, burdened with all the obligations, guilt, and shame. Don't do this, don't do that. And, he or she will be lost. They will be lost. They
Yeah.
will never come to the surface, and, you will never be whole. So, yeah, I personally feel, I mean, as how you explained and mentioned that, yeah, I mean, we need to navigate all of these emotions safely in a safe manner. There is no harm. But yeah, I mean, demonizing it is very sinister. I mean, when we look at, different, teachings, that, forces us, that encourages, the survivors to just let go, forgive. And, uh, it's not that after a period of time that you're processing things, then you are asked to forgive. But, it's very prematurely you are asked to just forgive and forget and just move on. That's a common thing that I used to hear, when I was with my family: forgive, forget, and move on. I mean, why the F should I forgive and why should I forget? Why can't I remember? I mean, what happened with me? I have to forgive, forget, and move on. Why in that sequence? And I personally sense a lot of spiritual bypassing, in these kind of statements: forgive, forget, move on. If you don't forgive, you're not going to heal. And I mean, I'm really curious. You being an IFS coach, you have engaged in IFS therapy to work on yourself and to recover from your share of trauma. I would want to know, what according to you, I mean, are the hidden consequences of bypassing anger, rage, instead of consciously integrating it? What are the hidden consequences of bypassing these things?
Well, I mean, I really think rage, hate, and anger are normal, natural human emotions. And the hidden consequence of trying to pretend that you don't have them, okay, is that they get really pushed into the shadow, right? They become very
Mm,
subconscious, and then they subconsciously run your life, and you don't know why, you know? And trying to push anger under the surface of your consciousness is like trying to push a volleyball under the surface of water.
wow,
How's that working for you? Like, that's going to pop out. And when it does pop out, it's going to look bad. You know what I mean? Like,
nasty.
if I'm working with my anger and my rage on a consistent basis, and I'm not trying to like hold it under the water, like a volleyball under the water, then generally speaking, it's not going to pop up like out of nowhere and freak everybody out. And I'm going to be like, who the hell? What, like I'll feel like I was taken over by some demon that I had no idea. But I mean, I definitely know people who are doing that, right? Who live from their managers, who like their operating personality is the spiritual manager who's like, oh, I'm so loving. And I never get angry, right? And they're like that. And they even have that tone of voice, like really, like you can kind of
Oh God, that's so annoying.
so loving and I'm really over. I've just really integrated my shadow,
Oh
so
God.
it doesn't occur to me to be angry. And then that's the most angry person. They're passive aggressive,
Oh wow, yes.
right? So that's definitely a consequence. Resentful. They come out with these little jabs because it's like leaking out sideways all over the top place. And then often it just comes out with the most weird projection you can imagine. You're like you're just doing something really normal. Like one time I was pouring vinegar on my salad. I think I've told you the story, right? I'm pouring vinegar
Mm-hmm.
on a salad. Like this is innocent. Okay, like what salad has vinegar on it? I'm not pouring like gallons of vinegar. I mean, it's just like salad. And this person who's seething with rage comes into the room and looks at me and goes, "Are you really going to use that much vinegar? Calm down. Like you're the one who's angry and you're disowning it and projecting it onto me. Like I did nothing." But they really believe I've somehow like injured them and harmed them by pouring vinegar on a salad. Like what? This is so delusional and distorted. So I mean, people who are disowning their anger, their rage, their hostility, their resentments, whatever, like it comes out sideways and then they behave in really weirdo clown bizarre ways that like it's so much drama. And it's like I mean, if I have to defend my like existence, why I'm breathing or making a salad, like I don't want to be in a relationship with you. And so, I mean, honestly, when you cannot be an authentic human being and you have this idea of like the peaceful, calm person that you're supposed to be, you're performing. Like you said, it's performative. So you're performing this nice person persona that you think is what you should do. But people feel that and it doesn't feel good. And then when it comes and leaks out sideways, it corrodes and destroys your relationships. So these are some of the nasty consequences.
True. And before we end today's discussion, I mean, there's something that came in my mind. Again, I really don't know where, I read this, but in Jung's work, he wrote, that there is no coming to, consciousness without pain. It's not an easy process. Pain is there. And I think pain is something that actually transforms you, provided you just don't take it in a wrong way that, yeah, I'm becoming so good, I'm bearing it, I'm suffering it, and I'm going to be Mother Teresa, I'm going to be saint this XYZ. No, definitely not. But yeah, I mean, reconnecting to your own self, I think that's what he meant. I mean, there is no coming to consciousness, without pain. I think that's what he meant. I mean, reconnecting to yourself, reconnecting, you know to your core, does require some amount of pain. It's a painful process to go inward and reconnect to yourself. I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, before we conclude today's podcast, Melissa, I mean, how would you sum up everything, the conversation that we had? Anger, rage, fury, everything.
Well, I love that quote because I really think that, I mean, I think there's one of the ways that society or culture or religion or spirituality and toxic positivity maligns and lies about and libels anger is they say, oh, you enjoy being angry. Like,
Oh, yes.
right? I no, actually, it's not fun. Like, I don't enjoy being angry. I feel like burned toast. You know what I mean? Like, I'm burning. Like, it's actually painful to feel. Like, when you really, like, not this, like, maybe firefighters look like they're having fun burning it down. Okay. But honestly, when you get to that really raw, primal anger and rage and hate that has been like seared into an exile because these perpetrators like basically took all their anger and hatred and like used it like a brand to just burn into your skin, burn your soul, burn your heart, right? Like just sear you, right? And so you feel the searing impact of that, their anger and their pain. It's like they're really transmitting hate and anger and rage into you from them, right? They're using you as the garbage can for all their unprocessed anger and rage and hate, right? And then I have to process it because they didn't. That sucks. And it isn't fun. Okay. Feeling anger is not actually fun, which is why I say sometimes we have to learn how to feel it more and push ourselves to feel it more because that really we have to learn how to cleanse it to the core. Yeah. So it's not actually fun, but it's painful. But we are in this podcast, what we're trying to say is that the pain of experiencing your anger and rage and hate will set you free.
So true.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for joining in today. And I'm looking forward to have you again with another new topic. And we are going to have a heart-to-heart conversation. Thank you so much, Melissa.
Thanks, Sarah.